Posted on r/true off my chest. Am I wrong for cutting off my entire family over an envelope? I never thought I'd be the type of person to walk away from my family. No big fight, no dramatic screaming match, just a quiet exit, like I was never there to begin with. But here I am, writing this on Reddit, because honestly, I don't know if I should feel guilty or relieved. Maybe both. Maybe neither. I wasn't the black sheep. I wasn't the rebel. I was the good son, the one who never asked for too much, the one who handled his own problems, the one they never had to worry about. And that's exactly why they took me for granted. I spent my entire life believing that, deep down, my parents loved my brother and me equally. Sure, they favored Austin, but that's just how families are, right? There's always a favorite. I told myself it didn't matter. I worked hard, built my own success, and didn't expect much from them. But then, graduation day came. That was the day I learned exactly where I stood. Because while my brother got the reward of a lifetime, I got something else, an envelope. And what was inside that envelope? Not a heartfelt letter, not a check, not even a simple, "we're proud of you." No, inside was a bill. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't their son. I was their wallet. Like this story? Subscribe to Reddit True Vault for more insane real-life stories. Posted on r/true off my chest. I don't think my parents ever hated me. They just forgot about me. I grew up in Houston, Texas, with my twin brother, Austin. My parents, James and Julia Carter, were the definition of middle-class suburban parents. My dad worked in finance. My mom stayed home when we were younger, but later took a part-time job at a local boutique. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family, stable, normal, loving. But if you looked a little closer, you'd see the cracks. And if you looked at me, you might not see much at all. Austin was the golden child. He was the one who could light up a room just by walking into it. He was funny, charming, athletic, everything a parent could want in a son. He played football in high school, had a full social life, and was the kid everyone gravitated toward. And my parents? They gravitated toward him too. I wasn't like Austin. I liked computers, coding, and books. I didn't have an army of friends. I didn't score touchdowns or win trophies. I kept to myself, spent hours learning programming, and started freelancing when I was 16. It wasn't that I resented Austin. He was never cruel to me, never acted like he was better. But when you grow up in the same house as someone who gets all the attention, you start to wonder if maybe you were born just to be a background character in someone else's story. Austin played football, and my parents never missed a single game. Every weekend, my dad was in the stands, yelling like he was coaching the Super Bowl. My mom made post-game snacks, took photos, posted them all over Facebook with captions like, "So proud of our boy, future NFL star." I was never in those posts. It wasn't just sports. Every little thing Austin did was worth celebrating. When he made the varsity team, they took him out for steak. When he got his first girlfriend, they made a huge deal out of it. When he passed his driving test, they got him a car. I was there for all of it. Cheering, clapping, watching. And when it was my turn, silence. I remember our 10th birthday. Or rather, Austin's 10th birthday. My parents threw a massive party, bounce house, pizza, his entire football team running around the backyard. I asked where my cake was, and my mom just blinked at me and said, "Oh honey, we thought you didn't care about that stuff." I was 10. What 10-year-old doesn't care about their birthday? But I let it go. Then there was the time in high school when I got the highest GPA in my class. I came home, expecting, not a party, but at least a good job. Maybe a "we're proud of you." Instead, my mom was in the kitchen, cooking Austin's favorite meal because he had scored a touchdown that day. When I told them about my achievement, my dad nodded, barely looking up from his phone, and said, "That's nice, kid. But remember, grades aren't everything. You gotta have personality too." Austin got a steak dinner for catching a ball. I got a dismissive pat on the back for years of hard work. I don't hate Austin. I really don't. He never rubbed it in my face. He never told our parents to treat me that way. But I hate the way they made me feel like I was invisible. And the worst part? I got used to it. I convinced myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need their approval. I was wrong, because when graduation day came, I realized just how little I had ever mattered to them. But maybe, deep down, I had already known. Maybe that's why I started working so early, because I knew no one was going to look out for me. Posted on r/true off my chest. I got my first paycheck when I was 16. While Austin was at football practice, I was at home teaching myself how to code. I started with basic HTML and CSS, then moved on to JavaScript, Python, anything I could get my hands on. By the time I was a junior in high school, I was already taking small freelance gigs, fixing websites, debugging code, sometimes even building full platforms for small businesses. It wasn't glamorous, but it was money. My money. I still remember my first real payment. A $300 PayPal transfer from a guy who needed help fixing his e-commerce site. It felt unreal. My parents gave Austin cash for gas, for new cleats, for nights out with his friends. But this was money I earned, money that was mine. I never flaunted it. I wasn't saving up for a car or designer clothes. I just liked knowing that, unlike Austin, I didn't have to ask my parents for help. I built my own safety net, one small deposit at a time. When I got into the University of Texas at Austin for computer science, I kept working. I balanced coursework with contract jobs, late nights debugging instead of partying. I wasn't making six figures or anything, but I had enough to be comfortable. Enough to know that when I graduated, I wouldn't have to worry about rent or scrambling for a job. My parents knew I was working. They just didn't care. I'd hear them on the phone bragging about Austin's internships, about his bright future in business. Meanwhile, I had clients in 3 different countries, was making more than most part-time retail jobs, and they never once asked me what I was doing. But fine, I didn't need the recognition. At least, that's what I told myself. Graduation day. The University of Texas at Austin was packed with families, cameras, and students in caps and gowns. Austin and I were both graduating, him with a business degree, me with a degree in computer science. Our parents flew in for the ceremony, all smiles, gushing about how proud they were. For a second, I thought, maybe this was it. Maybe this was the moment they'd finally see me. Acknowledge me. I was wrong. After the ceremony, we all went out for dinner. And that's when my parents revealed the surprise. For Austin, they let him outside, where parked in the lot was a brand new Tesla Model S, sleek. Expensive. Easily a $60,000 car. Austin was ecstatic, hugging them, thanking them over and over. My mom wiped tears from her eyes. My dad clapped him on the back. And me? I stood there, watching, waiting. Then my dad turned to me, smiling, and handed me an envelope. I stood there like an idiot, gripping that stupid envelope, waiting for the punchline. A car for Austin. An envelope for me. I actually thought, God, I was so stupid, that maybe it was a letter. Maybe something sentimental. Maybe, for once in my life, they saw me. Maybe they were proud of me. My fingers shook as I opened it. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. Then I saw the numbers. Rent. Utilities. Medical bills. Debt. I stared at it, not understanding. My brain just refused to process it. I looked up. My mom was smiling, like she had just given me the best present in the world. You've saved up so much, Gilbert. You can help the family. I felt like I'd been punched. Austin, who hadn't worked a single goddamn day in his life, got a Tesla, and I got a bill. I turned to my dad, waiting for him to say something, waiting for anyone to say this was a mistake, that this wasn't what it looked like. He just nodded. Austin doesn't have savings yet. But you do. It's only fair. Only fair. Austin glanced at me, then laughed. Dude, you always say money isn't important. I felt something snap inside me. I wasn't their son. I was their wallet. I always knew Austin was their favorite. But I never thought they'd make it this obvious. I don't even know what I'm feeling right now. I should be angry. I should be screaming. But mostly, I just feel empty. Today was supposed to be a good day. A milestone. A moment where, maybe, just maybe, my parents would finally see me. Instead, I walked away with a piece of paper that told me exactly what I meant to them. My brother got a Tesla. A brand new, fully loaded Model S. My parents cried. My mom hugged him so tight, I thought she'd never let go. My dad kept saying how proud he was. And me? I got a bill. Not a gift. Not even a congratulations. A bill for thousands of dollars. Debt. Utilities. Medical expenses. Not mine. Theirs. You've been working for years, Gilbert. You can help the family. Austin doesn't have savings yet. But I do. So obviously, it's only fair. Only fair. I couldn't say a word. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. There was nothing left to say. I don't even remember the drive back to my apartment. Just the quiet hum of the road. The feeling of my hands gripping the wheel too tight. My mind replaying the moment over and over like a broken tape. When I got home, I sat on my bed, staring at that envelope. I turned it over in my hands, hoping, praying, that maybe I had read it wrong. But the numbers didn't change. The truth didn't change. I tried to sleep. I couldn't. The thoughts wouldn't stop. This wasn't just about the money. This was years of being overlooked. Years of being treated like an afterthought. Years of knowing, deep down, that I was never going to be enough for them. At least, not the way Austin was. And so, like I always do when my mind won't shut up, I grabbed my laptop, opened Reddit, and started typing. Posted on r/true off my chest. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at my screen. The words blurred together, my hands still shaking from everything that had happened. I had just poured my entire soul into that post, and yet, I still felt hollow. Then, like a switch flipping in my brain, something clicked. I wasn't going to sit here, drowning in this feeling. I was done. Posted on r/true off my chest. I just walked out of my parents' house. For the last time. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what happens next. But I know one thing. I can't keep living like this. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't fight. I just left. I packed my things, shoved a few essentials into a duffel bag, and walked out the door. I didn't even slam it. I just left the envelope sitting on the kitchen table, right next to the untouched remains of our graduation dinner. Nobody stopped me. Nobody even asked where I was going. Maybe they thought I'd be back. Maybe they thought this was just another tantrum, another phase, another overreaction from the son they never really saw. But this wasn't a phase. For the first time in my life, I was choosing me, and I don't regret it. Not for a second. Posted on r/true off my chest. I don't know if I made the right choice. I mean, logically, I know I did. I know I couldn't stay there, not after everything. But right now, sitting alone in a tiny apartment on the other side of Houston, staring at walls that don't feel like mine, I can't help but wonder, did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? It's quiet here. Too quiet. No yelling, no passive-aggressive remarks, no expectations weighing on my shoulders. Just silence. And I hate it. I thought I'd feel free. I thought walking away would give me some kind of relief. But all I feel is this aching emptiness I don't know how to fill. I wish someone was here. Not to talk, not to ask questions, just to sit with me. Maybe crack open a few beers. Maybe just exist in the same space for a while. That's all I want right now. Just someone to sit next to me in this shitty little apartment on Westheimer Road, saying nothing at all. Just silence, but not alone. To be continued. It's been 8 months since I left. 8 months of silence. I thought they had moved on. I thought maybe, just maybe, they were fine without me. Turns out, I was wrong. I found out through my Aunt Linda. She's my dad's younger sister, the only one in the family who ever really saw me. She doesn't live in Houston, so we only talked once in a while, mostly through Facebook messages. But today she called. She didn't even bring them up at first. Just asked if I was okay. Said she missed me. Then, almost like an afterthought, she mentioned it. My parents had been calling my old number. Over and over. They hadn't called me when I graduated, hadn't called when I moved out, that hadn't called when I disappeared from their lives. But now they wanted to talk. Something about the mortgage. Something about the bills piling up. Something about my dad taking out loans he couldn't handle. And Austin, I don't know if she hesitated or if I just imagined it, but I knew what was coming next. The car. He had to sell it. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No satisfaction. Just nothing. She asked me if I was okay. I didn't know how to answer that. I'm not sure I ever will. But apparently, that question wasn't just on her mind. Because a few days later, my phone rang again. A number I didn't recognize. And I suddenly had my answer. I wasn't okay, but I was better than them. I don't know how they got my number. I mean, I do. Aunt Linda. I can't blame her. She never meant any harm. She was just caught in the middle, listening to them beg, cry, guilt trip her the way they used to do with me. I don't think she wanted to give them my number. I think, at some point, she just couldn't take it anymore. So now, after 8 months of silence, Austin called me. And for the first time in my life, he sounded small. The details are a blur. His voice was shaky. Something about how bad things had gotten. Something about loans, unpaid bills, missed payments. And then the part that actually made me pause. They sold the car. The same car they handed him like a trophy. The same car they justified buying because he needed it to start his life, while I was handed a bill. Gone. There was a time when that would have meant something to me. Maybe even hurt. Maybe I would have thought, finally, they understand. Finally, they see how unfair it was. But now, I just felt tired. Austin said something about how they needed me. How they couldn't do this alone. How I was still part of the family. I almost laughed. Not my problem, I said. And I meant it. I hung up before he could say anything else. I sat there for a long time after that. Just staring at my phone. Thinking about all the times they had ignored me, overlooked me, treated me like I was nothing. I wasn't invisible to them anymore, but only because they needed something. I don't know why, but I suddenly remembered something I once read on Reddit. Family isn't about blood. Family is about who's there when you have nothing to give. And for the first time, I finally understood what that meant. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Maybe Just maybe, this was finally over. Then the letter showed up, and I knew. I should have never underestimated their desperation. A letter, an actual, handwritten letter. I don't know why that part got to me. Maybe because it was such a stark contrast to the ignored texts, the desperate voicemails, the calls from unknown numbers I'd long since blocked. Maybe because it reminded me of childhood, when letters used to mean something. Birthday cards, silly notes from friends, acceptance letters to college. But this one wasn't any of those things. It was from my parents, and it was begging me to come back. I read it twice, and I felt nothing. I already knew things were bad for them. Aunt Linda told me. She didn't want to. I could tell. She hesitated, danced around the subject, probably hoping I wouldn't ask. But I did, and what she told me didn't surprise me. My father had been gambling. Sports betting, mostly. That's where the money went. The loans? The desperation? The reason they needed me so badly? It wasn't just bad luck or mismanagement. It was him. He had spent years throwing away everything on bets that never paid off. I should have been angry. I should have felt betrayed. But I just nodded, like she had told me the weather forecast. She kept going. Told me how they had started looking into me, talking to old family friends, trying to figure out how much money I actually had, trying to see if I could be convinced to help. I laughed at that. Not because it was funny, but because it was so damn predictable. That's when Aunt Linda sighed and said something that actually made me pause. I think they're scared of you, Gilbert. That made me blink. Scared? They know they pushed you too far. They know they don't have any leverage anymore. For the first time in a long time, I felt something. Not anger. Not sadness. Just finality. I wasn't the scared, neglected kid in the background anymore. I was the one who left, and I wasn't coming back. I held the letter in my hands for a moment longer. Then, without a second thought, I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. And that was that. No hesitation. No second guessing. No urge to fish it out and reread it one last time. Just nothing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't hoping for change. I wasn't craving an apology that would never feel real. I was free. I changed my number the next day, got a new email, blocked every last contact that could lead back to them. And then I did something I never thought I would do. I stopped looking back. I poured myself into work, into my own life, into the future that no longer had to be dictated by their expectations or their failures. At first, there were moments of doubt, a nagging whisper in the back of my mind that wondered if I had made the right choice, if I was being too harsh, too cruel. But then I remembered the bill in that envelope, the way Austin had smirked, the way they had never, not once, thought about me until they needed me. And just like that, the doubt faded. I wasn't cruel. I was done. People say that family is everything, but family is supposed to be something. Support, love, loyalty, not just a shared last name and a list of demands. So no, I don't have a family anymore, and I'm finally okay with that. And that's where the story ends. No follow-ups, no updates, just silence. After that last post, Gilbert never wrote anything else. No new accounts, no anonymous updates buried in some forgotten thread. Just gone. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he finally found peace. Or maybe some stories don't need an ending. What do you think? Was Gilbert right to walk away? Would you have done the same? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, real, raw, and true, make sure to follow Reddit True Vault. Because sometimes, the stories that hit the hardest are the ones that never got a final chapter.